You want to talk about that?
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is one of many videos I got to put out because I'm time limited concerning my illegal conviction by this county trying to run me out of my home. In October '69, I met my wife and fell in love and knew we'd been married many years, many lifetimes before when I dreamt that night, and she had the same dreams. But she tried to stop the relationship because she was pregnant due to a rape. In January 26th of 1970, she had a beautiful baby girl. I had my parents send food, diapers, all kinds of supplies to help out her baby because I considered her my girl too, even though she wasn't. I finally had a family. If you read my book at RayBly.com, you feel like I had a mom and dad, but I wasn't a family. I raised myself, basically. We told my parents my wife had adopted her from her sister because my parents were convinced that my wife was a prostitute because all Vietnamese girls that hung around with GIs were prostitutes, and she had an illegitimate baby. My wife didn't want anybody to know she'd been raped, so I stated she was adopted also from my wife's sister, which was the Viet Cong, the enemy that had died after she had her, as an excuse. So my parents wouldn't hate my wife when I brought her home. We lied to a lot of people about this, and my wife lied also to her family and as well as to my family, because rape is very hard on a woman. In July, I was ready with 2 airplane tickets to bring my wife and daughter home. My father-in-law, which is the head of the household, told my wife no. The daughter was from a rape, and he did not want her here when I could not prove I had a home, a car, a job, or anything. I didn't have anything. But he finally admitted that I was a good person and I could bring my wife home and come back and get my daughter, who I was planning on adopting, and bring her to America once we had set up some kind of living arrangements and jobs and stuff. I agreed. And then I found out I had to cash in my daughter's airplane ticket to pay for my wife anyway because the price had gone so much higher since I'd purchased them a few months before. In July, this was November, they had doubled in price almost, and I even had to have my father run to the airport and pay another 40 or 50 bucks after I cashed in my stepdaughter's ticket. We were planning on going back in a couple of years, but the father-in-law kept delaying us, saying, "You're not stabilized yet. You haven't been married long enough. Wait another year." And then Vietnam fell. I had all the paperwork to bring her here. It was just a big stumbling stone of my wife's father. And my wife, the father was always the king, the ruler, etc. in the household in Vietnam. And children listened to the father and mother no matter how old they were. We finally were able to bring her here well, let me back up. During the fall of Vietnam, my brother-in-law, which I had paperwork on, took my daughter to the embassy many, many times. And the last time he was told that because of the newspaper article I put out condemning the embassies and the State Department and the U.S. military in 1971, because they refused to let me marry my wife and ran me around in circles. They were getting even. They swore they were going to get even, and it'd be the last thing in hell they were going to let my brother-in-law and this girl out. It's terrible. And then in 1975, during the North Vietnamese invasion, I found out that my wife's daughter had died. because of all the bombs going off and everybody running for their life. She had accidentally died during explosions and bullets flying every which way, while the enemy was advancing towards Saigon through Ben Wa, Bu Wa, where they lived. My brother-in-law kept her alive to 1985, wanting money to support her. I sent money, which made him live like a king in Vietnam. $50 was more than most Vietnamese made in a year. And I sent hundreds of dollars every year. In 1985, I demanded he bring her. I got a whole bunch of letters, my wife did too, cussing my wife out, that she hated my wife for leaving her behind. She was not going to come to America. But looking back a few years later, after my criminal conviction, all the letters were written by different people. Half of them my wife burned, but the few I kept, 5, 6 of them, screaming and yelling she hated us, she didn't want to come to America, we couldn't force her to come to America and live with us devil, blue-eyed white people that would prostitute her out, were different handwritings, all different handwritings. I contacted with my wife, immigration, and said my brother-in-law, which was now married with 2 kids, could not come unless he escorted my wife's daughter, and what I considered my daughter too, to America. He screamed and yelled and kicked, and they came. He had to bring her or he could not come. Funny thing about it, when they came, Immigration Health Services knew he had active TB. All of them did, active TB. Never told me about it, or my wife. And they all had a very deadly, highly transmittable intestinal virus that if not treated could kill you. That cost me a fortune to take all of us to the doctor to get treated because me and my wife and 3 kids had caught it from them within a week of them being here. And then I found out they had TB a month later, and we're all sharing food in the table, sharing one bathroom, etc. And immigration let sick people that could, with a highly transmittable disease in America without quarantining them and treating them before they came. I would have paid for that. But they came. Thank God none of us got TB from them. And they refused to take their medicine, so I don't know if they still have it. My brother-in-law also had, and his wife had syphilis, active syphilis, because he liked to play around on his wife. He had some illegitimate kids in Vietnam with other women, which I found out about after my criminal conviction. The girl came here, she cussed us at the airport, said my wife was not her mother, my wife could go to hell. She did not want to be in America. She did this for the next 10 months. No matter what we did, my brother-in-law kept saying it was the communist indoctrination of her against America and Americans. Just give her time. Well, I forced her to go to school because she was 15, supposedly, my wife's daughter. In school, they said, anybody abuse you, just tell us and we'll get you a nice home. She met some other foster kids that her English teacher for foreign people, ESOL, they called it, teacher, English for foreign students, had sponsored 3 or 4 foster kids. And she visited their home. It was a $1 million home in western Howard County. So she claimed I abused her so she could get out of the home. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law also claimed they witnessed the abuse so they could move out and get welfare, free housing, and everything else. In the 10 months my brother-in-law and sister-in-law lived here, they accumulated 4 heaping truckloads of goods, brand new, still in the box, that I suggested they buy on sale because later they'd be moving to their own home, dishes, pots, pans, sewing machines, TVs, clothing, etc. And had over $8,000 in the bank. They said I stole their money. Every time their paycheck, I stole it. I wouldn't give them any living money for lunch money or anything. Now, where in the hell did they get all these goods paid for and $8,000 in the bank account? They cheated welfare. They defrauded the federal government out of housing. They moved to Anne Arundel originally, and Howard County found out and moved them right back to Howard County as witnesses against me for child abuse. Meanwhile, that I didn't find out until way after my criminal conviction, that the judge did a Ritchie review on was the police statements and the social service statements where she had given them her true name, which was nothing my daughter's name, and that she was 22, her ID card, her high school diploma, dated 4 years before when she was 18 from Vietnam High School, and they never turned this all over to defense. So the judge was in on it, which was total conspiracy to aid and abet an illegal alien, defraud an American citizen, all because the judge thought I was a crazed Vietnam veteran. I couldn't help myself. I was living nightmares, and I was abusing Vietnamese women because my sister also told him I abused my wife and kids. And now my brother-in-law and sister-in-law is telling him I abused my wife and kids. Sometimes I wish I was a crazy Vietnam veteran. I'll talk about the court in a minute, but I've had dreams of jumping into a fully loaded tank with a couple of my old Army buddies and driving it over to Ellicott City and taking out the police, the Department of Zoning, the courthouse, and the executive offices for the council people, as well as some other buildings in the county because of what they've done to me. The conviction was due to the judge thinking I needed help, mental help, and the county wanting my property, trying to evict me from my property for the previous 10 years with any kind of abuse they could to run me out of my home and let their builder friends get it for nothing. Just like they did a lot of my neighbors, they ran them out. And they couldn't run me out, so they wanted to convict me of a crime. So I couldn't own firearms. Let me address that for a second. When everybody knew I became a convicted felon, I could buy rocket launchers. I could buy hand grenades. I could buy AK-47s. Because they know I wouldn't turn them into the police for buying stolen illegal weapons in America. I could get anything I wanted for a decent price, cheaper than the gun stores as a convicted felon. So about these gun laws, it's ridiculous. I think everybody, including convicted felons, should have the right to defend themselves. Only when a gun is used in a felony should the person be convicted of having a gun. There should be no illegal guns, and the government should not know who owns guns because the criminals are always going to be able to get them. I gave all my guns away to people I know that's defending the Constitution and America, or will if they have to, and to my children. So I won't be arrested and thrown in jail for having a gun, which I might use when planning and zoning tries to break down my door again, yelling I'm doing something illegal that I've been doing for 35, 40 years here on my property, like having firewood next to it, my house. I'll get into the trial on my next video because I'm only allowed to download about 13 minutes of video each session on Facebook. Thank you very much.